She told me she was at yoga. I remember the way she said it. Casual, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she hadn't just looked me in the eye and slipped a lie between us like a folded napkin under a wine glass. I'll be at yoga from 6 to 8, she said, grabbing her mat, her water bottle, her calm. I nodded, kissed her forehead like I always did, and said I'd reheat dinner when she got back. That was our routine. It had been, for nearly 4 years. What I didn't expect, what I couldn't have prepared for, was running into her yoga instructor 15 minutes later at the corner store. He was buying instant coffee and granola bars. We both reached for the same brand of trail mix. He looked up and smiled, that same zen-smothered smile he always wore at her weekend classes. Hey, he said. Jason, right? Ellie's husband? I paused. My hand hovered over the bag of almonds, heart thudding for no reason I could name yet. Yeah, I said slowly. She's at your class now, right? That's when it happened. The tilt of his head, the way his eyebrows drew together. Confused, not suspicious. Just confused. My class, he echoed. No, I canceled tonight. Sent out an email this morning. I've got my daughter's piano recital. My stomach didn't drop. It flipped. He looked genuinely sorry. Sorry if she didn't tell you. I hope she wasn't too disappointed. She usually takes it pretty seriously. I nodded, managing a smile that felt glued to my face. She didn't mention it, I said. Hope the recital goes well. I paid for my almonds. Walked out, got in my car, and sat there. For a long time. It wasn't just the lie. It was the effortless lie. The way she'd said it while tying her shoes, humming under her breath. No blink. No hesitation. I didn't drive home. I didn't call her. I didn't storm into any buildings or kick over trash cans like they do in the movies. I just sat there, watching the sun disappear behind a row of brick storefronts, the sky blushing orange like it was embarrassed for me. It was almost poetic, if you're into that kind of thing. But I wasn't. Not then. Not in that moment. All I could think was, where is she? And why didn't I notice this sooner? Let me rewind a little. Ellie and I met at a gallery opening downtown. She was standing alone in front of a painting of a woman holding a red balloon. She hated it. Said it felt like it was trying too hard to be mysterious. I laughed. She didn't. Then, after a pause, she smiled like it had taken effort. That smile stayed with me. She was sharp, witty, the kind of woman who could drink whiskey straight and make it look elegant. We moved in together 6 months after we met. Married 2 years after that. Built a little life with muted colors and shared Spotify playlists. And for the most part, we were good. At least, I thought we were. But cracks don't shout. They whisper. They live in the way she stopped telling me about her dreams. In the way she started texting in the bathroom with the door locked. She said she was journaling. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the lie, but how ready I was to protect it. That night, I drove. No destination. Just streets I hadn't noticed before. Houses I'd never lived in. Lives I'd never touched. I ended up at the same Thai place we used to order from on Fridays. I sat at a booth in the corner and ordered 2 meals. Muscle memory. I almost texted her to ask if she wanted spring rolls. I didn't. Instead, I watched couples walk in and out. A man laughing at his wife's bad joke. A woman resting her head on someone's shoulder like the world couldn't touch her there. And I wondered when Ellie stopped leaning on me like that. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I hadn't held her tight enough when her dad got sick. Maybe I'd gone quiet during the hard weeks, buried myself in work, thought providing was enough. I'm not pretending to be perfect. God knows I had my flaws, my silences, my walls. But I was there. I was faithful, and I believed in us. Even when she started drifting. Especially then. I drove home around 9. Her car was in the driveway. The living room light was on. So was the diffuser, lavender and eucalyptus, her favorite combo. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone, hair damp from a shower. She looked up when I walked in. Hey, she said, all soft and familiar. Yoga was good. I stood there, looking at her. And for a second, I wondered if I could do it. Pretend, forget, let it go. But then I remembered the look on the instructor's face. And mine. He looked confused. I looked done. I didn't ask her anything right away. I just walked past her, past the soft scent of lavender and whatever else she was diffusing to mask the truth. I went into the kitchen and poured a glass of water, not because I was thirsty, but because I needed something to hold. Something real. From the living room, her voice floated in. Are you okay? That was the moment, right there. The last moment we could have maybe salvaged something. If she had said, "Can we talk?" Or even I lied, we might have had a different story. A mess, sure, but one we could have cleaned up together. But she didn't. She played her part. Too well. I walked back in, glass in hand, and sat down across from her. "Yoga went okay?" I asked. My voice felt foreign in my own mouth. She nodded. "Yeah, tough session tonight. A lot of balance work." I stared at her like she was speaking another language. Her lie wasn't cracking, not even a flinch. "Did Brett say anything about the weekend class?" She blinked. "What? Brett? Your instructor. He didn't mention canceling tonight?" Still nothing. She shook her head, casual. "No, why?" "Because I saw him." That's what I wanted to say. Because he was standing 10 feet from me with granola bars in one hand and confusion in his eyes. Because he looked like a guy who taught breathing and balance and didn't know he was being used as an alibi. But I didn't say that. I just smiled. No reason. I think that was the moment I really broke. Not in an explosive way, but in the quiet way you do when the last nail is driven into a door that's been closing for months. I didn't even finish my water. She moved closer, sat next to me. "You're being weird. Long day?" I looked at her then. Really looked. She was still the woman I married. Same eyes. Same nervous fidget with her sleeve when things got quiet. But she felt like a stranger wearing my wife's skin. Like someone who knew the choreography of our life, but not the meaning behind it. "Yeah," I said. "Long day." She leaned into me, her head on my shoulder like old times. And I let her. Not because I believed her, but because I needed to feel what it was like one last time. The warmth. The weight. The lie. She said she was tired, went to bed early. I stayed on the couch long after the house went still, staring at the dark screen of the TV, my own reflection faint against the glass. I thought of every Tuesday night yoga class. Every time she came home sweaty and glowing, saying it was the deep stretches or the new essential oils Brett was using. Every time I asked how it went, and she gave me just enough to believe I was still part of her life. I wasn't. And I think, deep down, I'd known for a while. The next morning, she made pancakes. She didn't usually do that during the week, but there they were, stacks of them, warm and golden, with blueberries just the way I liked them. She kissed me on the cheek, acted like everything was fine. Normal. I chewed the pancakes like they were made of sand. "I was thinking we could go upstate this weekend," she said between bites. "Just the two of us. Get away for a bit." I nodded. "That sounds nice." She smiled, like maybe she believed we were okay. Like she hadn't lit a match and dropped it behind her as she walked away. But I'd already started packing matches of my own. That afternoon, I called Brett. He answered, surprised but polite. I asked him again, just to be sure. Was there any chance Ellie had taken a private session? Met with someone else? Anything? He paused. "Jason, no. I'm sorry, but there wasn't any class. I was in Stanford with my daughter all night." "And she didn't text you about rescheduling or anything?" "No. Nothing." "Why?" I didn't answer. "Is everything okay?" I almost told him. I almost laid it all out. But what would that have done? He was innocent. A name she borrowed. A schedule she hijacked. I thanked him and hung up. That evening, I checked her phone while she showered. I hadn't done that in years. It used to be a rule between us. Mutual trust, mutual respect. But that rule, like everything else, had started to rot. There were no suspicious messages. No save numbers with fake names. No trail. Just a blankness that felt curated. And that's when it hit me. She'd gotten good at this. This wasn't the first time. The next few days, I played along. Smiled when I had to. Talked when she talked. Ate the dinners she cooked with too much attention. Wore the shirts she'd started folding just a bit too neatly. She was overcompensating, which meant she knew I was onto her. But still, not a word of truth. Not even a crack. It was like she believed she could hold it all together if she just stayed in character long enough. Like we were on some stage, performing a version of marriage for an invisible audience. But I was done with theater. I just hadn't told her yet. Saturday came like it always does, slow light through the blinds, the smell of coffee she made, my shirt already ironed. She was humming to herself in the kitchen, like a woman who'd never told a lie. But the car was already packed. I didn't want the house. I didn't want to fight. I didn't even want answers anymore. I just wanted out, with my peace intact. Still, I needed one thing before I left. The truth, even if it was just for me to hear her say it. So I waited until she sat across from me, Saturday morning coffee in hand, sunlight catching the gold ring on her finger. The one I put there with so much hope. So much belief. I asked her again, gently this time. Where were you Tuesday night? She blinked. Yoga. I told you. And there it was. Still. I set my mug down. Not angry. Not loud. Just steady. I ran into Brett. At the corner store. Around 6:15. She froze. Her smile thinned, but didn't disappear. He must have forgotten. He didn't, I said quietly. His daughter had a recital. He canceled the class and emailed everyone. The silence stretched between us like a pulled thread, ready to snap. Ellie's hand tightened around her cup. Okay, she whispered finally. I wasn't at yoga. I nodded once. I know. She looked at me like she was trying to gauge what came next. How big the explosion would be. But I didn't give her one. I just let the stillness do the talking. I just needed space, she said. From me. She hesitated. From everything. That wasn't the truth. Not all of it. But it was a crack. And I could finally see through it. Are you seeing someone? Her eyes watered, but she didn't cry. She shook her head once, then stopped mid-shake. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. The words hit harder than if she'd shouted. They were so small, so controlled, like she'd rehearsed them. I looked down at my hands. You know, I said. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who missed signs, who'd get played. But maybe that's the problem. I thought loving you was enough. I didn't see what you were willing to lose. Her voice cracked. It just happened. I nodded slowly. That's how lies always start. Small. Quiet. Then one day you're lying about yoga to a man who would have built you the world if you just asked. She finally broke then. Tears, the kind that fall when regret shows up too late. She reached for me across the table. I never stopped loving you. I pulled my hand back. That's not the point, I said. You just stopped respecting me. There was nothing left to argue. No more lies to twist. No story to sell. She sat in that chair like someone who realized too late that the test was already graded, that I'd already walked away in every way that mattered. I stood up, walked down the hallway, grabbed the duffel bag I packed the night before. She followed me to the door. Where will you go? Somewhere I don't have to wonder if love comes with conditions. I turned to her one last time. I would have forgiven almost anything, but I can't forgive being made to feel small in a love I built. She didn't try to stop me, just stood there in the doorway, barefoot on the tile, watching the man who never stopped showing up for her, stop, finally, for himself. I drove with no destination, only direction. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back. Because when a man finally sees the truth, when he lets himself see it, there's no going home. Only forward.